And welcome back to my channel. In today's review, we're going to be taking a look at the brand new Transformers Studio Series Deluxe class crankcase. Taking a quick look at the packaging, as you can see, we have a very cool image of Crowbar, not crankcase, as this is actually the Crowbar CGI model. You've got Transformers Dark of the Moon crankcase. The other side of the packaging has another image of what is apparently crankcase. The back of the packaging showcases the figure in his robot mode as well as his vehicle mode. We've got some of the other figures in the assortment, all of which I have already reviewed. It does come with a brief bio. Crankcase takes on the Autobots, refusing to back down. And finally, the other side of the packaging just has a closer up image of the CGI render. Taking a quick look at the backdrop that Crankcase comes with, it is the same backdrop that we got with the Studio Series Sideswipe, in the fact that it is from the scene from the Mexican standoff. As for all these figures, you can insert the figure into the display base for a more dynamic option. And here we have the Deluxe Class Studio Series Crankcase opened up and out of his packaging, and as he comes packaged in his robot mode. Now I must say straight away, initially I was never going to get this figure. I had no intentions whatsoever. However, I saw it for retail price and I thought, just for a review purposes, I thought I'd pick it up and see what it is like. And essentially it is just a direct repaint of the previous release Deluxe Class Crowbar, also from the Studio Series. I have no idea why Hasbro have re-released this figure and labelled him as Crankcase, as this is completely inaccurate to the CG model we saw of Crankcase. Upon comparing the figures, as you can see, Crankcase has been given a much darker paint scheme. This one was fairly light in his colours. This one's a lot more darker with a mixture of black and greys and no red paint application. The head too is a lot darker. I do actually prefer the colour scheme on the lighter version. However, I do actually prefer the dreads on the brand new Crankcase figure. I do quite like this gold plastic that they've used for this, and these are also a lot bendier than the previous version, which felt a lot more plasticky, and if so they could break. The hands too have been done in a gold plastic as opposed to this colour, which I actually do prefer. Once again, moving down to the leg sections, I do actually quite like the gold that they've used for the rear headlights. However, that is of course not accurate, as rear headlights are supposed to be red as apparent on this figure. The back kibble is exactly the same as the Crowbar figure. As you can see, turning the figures around, they are near enough identical. So really and truly, all this figure is a darker repaint of this original version. Now, very quickly turning to articulation, as it is exactly the same as the Crowbar figure, which I have previously looked at. The head is on a ball joint, so it can look left to right, up and down, which is great motion. It's also got this second hinge, which allows it to be cocked forwards and backwards. The arms are on ball joints, so they can do the full 360 spin, as well as move out to the sides. And also, due to transformation, you do have this hinge here. There's also a swivel just above the elbow section with a 90-degree bend at the elbow. Unfortunately, there is no waist articulation. However, the legs can kick forwards that far, as well as backwards about that far. They are on ball joints, so they can kick outwards, and there is also some slight swivel movement. There is also a 360 rotation at the thigh. The knee can bend just a tiny bit more than 90 degrees, and due to transformation, the foot is able to pivot forwards and backwards. So overall, for articulation, it is fairly basic. Turning to accessories, Crankcase comes with the exact same weapons as the original release. As you can see, this time they have been cast in a gold plastic, as opposed to the more accurate, better looking kind of darker grey colour scheme that we saw on the original release. And here we have Crankcase in his vehicle mode. Now I have decided to skip the transformation segment on this, as it is exactly the same as the previous version, which I have already reviewed. As you can see, the details for the most part are identical to the previous release. Once again, I've opted to skip the transformation on the previous version, and I'm not going to be showing you a comparison in the vehicle mode, as they are exactly the same. As you can see, we've got a gold painted Chevy logo with some white headlights picked out in a white paint. We've got that same blue metallic paint applied for the windows with the red surveillance lights at the top. Turning the figure to the back, we've yet again got the Chevy logo picked out in a gold paint with the rear lights picked out in a red paint application, and we still do have the dreads that just hang out of the back. Now, unlike Clunker Bumblebee, which actually made some adjustments to the overall structural stability in vehicle mode, they haven't done anything new on this figure other than slap on a new paint scheme. They haven't even engineered a way for these dreads to fold up into the back of this, which is such a shame and so annoying, as this figure is probably the worst Studio Series figure that I've ever reviewed, just simply down to how inaccurate it is and the fact that it is just so lazy. So overall, what do I think of the brand new Studio Series Deluxe Class Crankcase? Personally, I think it is a complete letdown. It is the worst Studio Series figure to date, and I would not recommend it at all unless you do not have the original version. I don't even believe that the paint applications used on this one are better than the original version, which is still warming the pegs even to this day. The choice behind why Hasbro decided to re-release this is a complete myth to me, as this figure just does not make any sense. That if they really wanted just to be lazy and re-release a figure, they could have taken the Deluxe Class Berserker from the Last Night, which was already an underappreciated figure due to the character not actually really being in the movie that much, and reused it for the Crankcase mold, as that would have been so much more accurate, and they could have given it a really nice new paint deco. As far as this goes, this is completely untouched in terms of structure integrity, all the molding processes and design are identical to the previous version, and the only thing new here is a few extra paint applications. Overall, this is an extremely underwhelming release from the Studio Series toy line. I hope that you enjoyed this review, which really has been probably one of the most negative reviews I've ever done on a figure, just due to how lazy this toy is. I do have reviews planned for the Studio Series Jetfire as well as the Dark of the Moon Megatron coming later on this week, so stay tuned for their reviews there. Thanks for watching.